Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about tipping. Has it got out of control in the US? Tipping here in the Philippines is not required or expected in most places. But I want to talk to you a little bit about a conversation I had yesterday with a subscriber who did a consultation with me, and we talked about the Philippines and his traveling here. But after we continued to have a conversation, and it turned on to tipping. He was telling me how bad the tipping has gotten there. With all those POS, point of sales machines, you'll be sitting there dining and they bring you the bill on an iPad and you put your card in it and it pops up 20, 25, 30% for a tip or no tip. But the waiter and waitress, they're looking right down at you and you feel awkward. It's very uncomfortable, he was saying. And I can relate that to some experiences I had when I was in the US. I was in New Mexico. I pulled into a Shell gas station. And at this Shell gas station, they had a security guard inside. I pulled up to the pump to pump. It wouldn't take my card. It said, go see cashier. As I'm walking, 2 or 3 homeless people are coming up to me asking for change, asking me for some money. It was like going through the gauntlet to get to the door of this mini mart that was the Shell gas station. The guard didn't open the door for me. He was standing next to the cashier. Now, I needed gas, and you swiped your credit card. There was a tip jar. Security guard was standing right next to the tip jar, and I go, those people out there, they really bother me when I came through. Can't you get rid of them or have them move on their way? The guard says, no, my job is to protect the people inside. And I said, well, then you're protecting that tip jar pretty good, because he had his arm right next to it and, protecting that tip jar more than protecting his customers. Tips were becoming more and more common in strange places. Ace Hardware store was one. And I decided in 2022, this point of sale tipping was completely out of control. Dave Ramsey says, no tipping at fast food places. And I'm going to agree with him, and I wonder if you guys agree with me also. If I have to pay for my food before I get it, I'm not going to tip. If I have to stand up and order it, I'm not going to tip. And if it's a drive-through, I wouldn't tip. And, to-go orders. If you're talking about like a Burger King and a McDonald's, there's no way I'm going to tip anybody at these places. Maybe if it's a specialty restaurant and you ordered something extravagant, and it took them a while to make it, and the waiter had to put it in a special box. Yeah, maybe I would tip then. But not that I'm a cheap Charlie, but tipping has gotten so out of control in the United States. So guys, let me know what you think. When is the right time to tip in the US? Would you tip with all this, like David Ramsey says, I'm not going to tip fast food. There's many reasons not to tip, and what he really hates is being guilted into giving tips. I can't believe they're asking for tips at Ace Hardware store. And it's really becoming more of a burden. A lot of places people don't go back to anymore. If they ask too much for the tip, they make you feel too uncomfortable. Instead of buying pizza at store A, you're going to go buy your pizza at store B. I know there's a lot of problems. Not everybody is making a great wage. You guys remember when we were young, when tips were 15%. And when I was just in high school and I would take out my date to get something to eat, my dad taught me, he said, Mike, just look at the sales tax ×2 and leave that as a tip. And that worked for a long time. 15% was a good tip. Now, 20% is considered just adequate enough. Anything below 15%, they're spitting at you, I think. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Here in the Philippines, it's not required, but it's very appreciated. And a lot of this depends if you're living in a big city or a small provincial town or a smaller city. Most of the time, tips are like 20 pesos or 50 pesos, which could be 35 cents to 85 cents. Or in the bigger cities, you might be tipping more. You might be tipping 100 pesos or 200 pesos, less than $2 and less than $4. But let's get a little bit into how we tip here in the Philippines, or how Mike and Janet tip here in the Philippines. Everybody's different, depending on your comfort zone, how you're feeling that day. There's nothing wrong with being generous. I've never had a day when I've gone home and said, man, I was over generous today. Now I have gone home and said, man, I shouldn't have tipped that guy. That service was lousy, and felt bad that I got guilted into giving a tip. To get to the point of this video is I want to compare the difference of, in America, the culture of people expecting that tip, even if they don't deserve it. You know, if the service they give you is their own service, you know, that's part of the multi-billion-dollar franchise, you know, Chipotle's or Starbucks, why do we have to tip them? They make so much money that they can pay their help properly. Raise the price a nickel, a dime, quarter, whatever the price has to be raised, and pay them, and don't ask us to supplement everybody's wages because you pay people less than they deserve to get paid. Now, compare that to the Philippines. But here in the Philippines, it's not so. When I go down and have a cup of coffee at a Tom Tom's or the Starbucks here, or you know, Bo's Coffee, anywhere in Dumaguete, I always tip something. But that's pennies. But it's not expected. They're not giving you change and hoping that you put the change in the tip jar. They're giving you change. Matter of fact, they're asking you if you have smaller bills and you have exact change, so they don't have to give you change. Where I remember at a bake shop at one of these casinos in Las Vegas one time, I went in and I got a pastry and a coffee, which was outrageous price because I'm in a casino, and my change would be like $1.60, where they don't even give it to you. And I would say to them after, you know, waiting a moment, how about my change? They go, oh, you really want your change back? Sort of guilting you into saying, oh, no, never mind, that's for you guys. Yeah, thank you for your service. You know, these people waiting on you, it's not like they served in the military and we're thanking them for their service, you know, to protect us in this country. It's the job that they have chosen. And a lot of them are college students, low income. In some states, the minimum wage is very low. But in some of these places, these are big name companies. You know, Starbucks, Chipotle's, you know, and you're leaving tips to a company that's making billions of dollars a year. But here in the Philippines, you go to a restaurant in a smaller province, my rule of thumb always is, if it's under 1,000 pesos for the meal, I leave 50 pesos. If it's over 1,000, I leave 100 pesos. That's just what I do. But they don't expect anything. And one day we were at the Hideout, and I was sitting there with a friend, and we were talking, we had something to eat. But right next door to the Hideout is a bakery. And Janet wanted some pandesal. So I went there and I told the lady, I want 15 pieces of pandesal. And they're 5 pesos each. And I said, I'm sitting over here eating. Well, I thought she'd bring it to the table and, you know, I would just pay her for that. No, she waited. I finished my meal. I went over there. She had it all bagged up nice, was waiting for me, and says 75 pesos. I give her 100. And I'm not going to wait for the change. You know, I'm tipping her the 25 pesos. And I walk away. This lady follows me down the road. Follows me down the road to my motorbike. Sir, you forgot your change. And when I told her, no, that was for you, so happy, the smile came out. You know, she was just grateful for a small token extra on top of her pay, on top of her wages. And her wages are small. You know, at this little mom and pop type bakery, she probably was only making 300 to 500 pesos a day, if that much. And giving her 25 pesos or 50 pesos, it's nothing to us. It's chump change, but it makes them so happy. So here you're giving tips to somebody who is much more appreciative of the tips than people who are demanding the tip. You know, if you don't tip in the US and you come back to that restaurant, you're going to get a Luger or something bad's going to happen to your food if they remember you. You know, it's like sending food back. Are you going to get good food back, or are they going to, you know, do something to it? You know, that's always in the back of your mind. So here in the Philippines, they're much more appreciative. And let's go over item by item. When you arrive at the airport, you should not tip anybody except the baggage guys. Matter of fact, the security, people who work at the airport, they're not supposed to accept tips as a rule of thumb. But baggage claim, you know, the guys that help you with your bags to the taxi or something, yeah, tip them 20 pesos or 50 pesos. If you have a large amount of bags and they're heavy and, you know, they had to be with you for a long time getting it to your ride or your Grab or your taxi and helping you out, yeah, tip them extra, tip them 100 pesos. Make their day, make them feel appreciated for the work that they did for you. They're not expecting that tip. They're not going to swear at you if you don't tip them and you get in your cab and go away, but it's just so well appreciated. It's such a big difference when you're giving because you want to give than giving because you have to give. Now let's talk about taxi cabs. In the taxi cabs, I usually just round it up. If my fare is 80 pesos, I give them the 100. If my fare is 110 pesos, I give them 150. If Janet's with me, she doesn't tip at all. But I just round it up. Now, if a guy goes out of his way, super heavy traffic, maybe you ask him to stop while you ran into the drugstore and he waited for you, then I tip extra for that because you're getting more service. You're getting more bang for your buck. Let's talk about the food delivery guys here in the Philippines. You know, these little Grab or Panda Expresses that come around. They don't expect a tip. They do not expect a tip. Now, I do tip because I have money. It's something I do, but they don't expect a tip. You don't have to tip. All this is dependent on your service. If you get it late, it took them too long, and you don't want to tip, it's up to you. You know, and nobody's going to be mad at you. Nobody's going to curse at you or anything of this nature. But if you make an order at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning and somebody goes and gets you your McDonald's or your Burger King or something, whatever food you want, and delivers it to you, maybe then you should give a little bit extra for that extra service that they're available at that hour to help you. And 20 to 50 pesos is plenty. 20 to 50 pesos is all they expect. And if you tip somebody 100, that's up to you. You know, thank you. But they don't expect these tips. If you're in a big city and they have like the Grab cars, you know, you order Grab on your phone. Usually you prepay for the ride. You might even put in the tip ahead of time. If you didn't put in the tip and the guy went out of his way, again, heavy traffic, waited for you, took you a long time to come down from your condo, or he really went to an isolated area, yeah, I would tip him extra. You're tipping for the service. What extra did they do? And again, it's not required. None of this tipping is required. But again, 50 pesos, 100 pesos in a big city is plenty. In the bigger cities, you got to be careful the restaurants. The restaurants are getting wise. The bigger, nicer restaurants, they're charging service charges. And even here in Dumaguete, you know, you go to Ground Zero, they have a service charge on their bill. HEIDI has a service charge. There's a couple places that have service charges already on the bill. And that service charge is the tip. So take a look at it. If it's 10, one place is 20%, shocked me. That's their tip. So I pay the exact amount, and their tip is included in the service charge. And that's the same thing back in the U.S. You know, this guy was telling me he went to a restaurant, and he didn't realize that there was a 16% service charge on his check already. And then when they brought him that little iPad with his credit card, it asked him, you want to tip 20, 25, or 30%? And it was already, the default was the 30%. If you didn't pay attention, you're giving a 30% tip on top of the 16% service charge. So you're giving close to 46, almost 50% extra through this point of sale, add-on tips, and the service charge. So be careful about those. And even here in the Philippines, in restaurants, nice restaurants, and not so nice restaurants, watch for the service charge. Let's talk about you guys who get massages. Now, most places you go and get a massage, it's 400 or 500 pesos for an hour. You go into the massage and the girl takes care of you. But most of that 400 pesos you give her goes to the management, goes to the company, and she might get half of that. If she's done a great job on the massage, I would tip a masseuse. I would, because they're doing a service for you, and you're giving them instructions on what to do. But 100 peso tip is plenty for a masseuse. Now, if you have one coming to your hotel room, either they're supplied by the hotel or an independent, I would consider more of a 200 peso tip for that, because that's a little bit more traveling, carrying their stuff up to your room and everything. A more service-oriented massage where they're coming to you and you don't have to get dressed, you don't have to pack up, nothing. You're just in your room and you're going to get a nice massage and then they're going to leave. So the transportation's on them. So I would tip 200 for an in-room massage. Haircuts, that's the big one. That's the one Janet yells at me the most about. And in my budget video I told you guys about, I tip 100 pesos for a nice haircut from a nice place. The one right next to Bo's Coffee, I tipped them 100 pesos. And the thing with tipping them extra, and it's the same thing with the coffee shop Tom Tom's, where I tip extra. When I come in and there's a long line, I get to the front of the line. Sometimes my coffee is ready and they don't bill me yet, they don't ask for payment yet, because they know what I want. They prepare my coffee and they know I'm going to tip them. And before the people in front of me even get their order in, sometimes I have my coffee. And same thing with the haircut. I went in there the other day and it was a 2-hour wait, the lady said, for a haircut. And I said, well, I'll go next door and wait, and she can text me on the phone. The barber, because he recognized me because I tip him all the time, called me to the front. Hey, come in here, sir. Come here, sir. And I went right in there, got my haircut, and paid the 150 for the haircut and the 100 peso tip. So you're tipping for service. And it's not mandatory. It's not expected. They're grateful to get it. It's such a big difference in feeling from being guilted into giving a tip and giving a tip willingly. What I call the helpful Filipinos. When you're out and about, say you got a motorcycle and you get a flat tire, and now you have to push that motorcycle to one of these tire repair places, and some Filipino comes and helps you. Maybe they help you push, maybe they pull alongside in their motorcycle and will tow it so you can get there. Or if you run out of gas on your motorcycle, they'll tow you with another motorcycle. You need something done in your house, somebody to come in and do a little handiwork. Helpful Filipinos, people who they're not working for anybody, but they're just helping you. Maybe they're giving you a little bit of day labor or something. Tip these people because, one, they're very courteous to you. One, they're doing a big favor for you. And when you need them again in the future, they're going to be there. Try to leave a good taste in their mouth of dealing with a foreigner. Security guard that gets a taxi for you, gets the door for you. You don't have to give them a tip every time if you live in a condo. Maybe drop them a 20 peso every now and then. I know when we were up in Cebu, there was 2 times I asked the security guard to get a taxi for us. One time I gave him 20 pesos. He said, thank you, opened the door for Janet and me and let us go. The next guy, I went to give him the money. He wouldn't take it. He wouldn't take it. It was like part of my job. Part of my job. Security people here are much more helpful than in the U.S. I don't want to generalize everybody, but here the security people are more customer service oriented than they are in security, even though they carry a big shotgun, and I'm sure they'll use it if needed. But tipping here in the Philippines is totally up to you. They don't expect it. More than one time has people come out from behind the counter to say, sir, you forgot your change. And I was leaving it as a tip. More than once. And you can find that with many people here in the Philippines. In the bigger cities, I think it's a little bit different in the more expensive restaurants, the more expensive bars or something of this nature. In the provincial towns, I don't think anybody is really looking for a tip. They don't expect a tip. If you leave one, you do, great. If you don't, you don't. They're still happy to see you the next day. So guys, until next time.